take a deep breath, take the higher road. That's what they always say, as if they know the way. They won't take it from me. But don't ever doubt yourself, 'cause life ain't just a dream. You make your own, so kick and scream. The people will act with a never-ending force. You never had the chance, so what you waiting for? The day has come, my friend, 'cause this is war. It's time and this is war.
We have delved into many of the untold stories, the controversial debates, and the groundbreaking legal battles that have shaped our world post-COVID. The story of Brenda Downs isn't just that of another patient placed on a ventilator and poisoned with remdesivir, although both of those did happen. But as you'll begin to see as the story unfolds, it is one of corruption to the highest degree. It is a matter that strikes at the very core of our healthcare system and raises questions about the ethical responsibilities of hospitals. I'm talking about the disturbing trend of hospitals denying patients access to a potentially life-saving medication, ivermectin. Ivermectin, originally developed as an antiparasitic drug, has gained attention in recent years for its potentially efficacy in treating COVID-19. Numerous studies have proven it to be a valuable tool in battling this virus, offering hope to those who have been suffering and are desperate for treatment options. However, despite mounting evidence and countless anecdotal success stories, many hospitals have chosen to turn their backs on ivermectin as a potential treatment option. Patients who are pleading for access to this medication are being met with denial and resistance from medical professionals who claim that there is insufficient evidence or that it is not approved by regulatory bodies. This denial of ivermectin raises serious questions about our healthcare system's commitment to patient-centered care. Shouldn't we be exploring every possible avenue when lives are at stake? Shouldn't we prioritize compassion and empathy over bureaucratic red tape? It's disheartening to see patients being denied a potentially life-saving treatment simply because it does not fit within the established rigid protocols or guidelines. We must remember that medicine is ever evolving, with new treatments and approaches constantly being discovered. Denying patients access to these options only serves to hinder progress and limit their chances of survival. We cannot ignore the countless stories of individuals who have fought tooth and nail for access to ivermectin, often resorting to legal battles or seeking alternatives outside of traditional healthcare systems. These stories highlight the desperation felt by those whose loved ones' lives hang in the balance. You're listening to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Before we get started today, I do want to encourage our listeners, if you have questions or comments, or perhaps you want to share your own experiences with what you're seeing on the front lines of healthcare, you can now submit those to us by sending them directly to nurses@americaoutloud.com. We will be featuring your questions and comments every Tuesday on a special Q&A episode with the nurses. We encourage all of you to engage in the battle and find your voice in this fight. But until you are able to do that, we will continue to be that voice for you. When Brenda Downs' doctors had no more medical interventions to save her from COVID-19, her family asked for doctors to administer ivermectin. When they refused, her family filed an affidavit seeking emergency and injunctive relief. A deal was struck with Ohio Health that if the Downs family agreed to a confidentiality agreement, Brenda would receive the medication. Ohio Health was so worried about anyone finding out about this that they put a $1 million penalty on each of the 3 family members. The family agreed under duress to save their wife and mother, but the ivermectin never came. In fact, the Downs family was ambushed and intimidated by doctors at the hospital, lying to them that ivermectin would harm Brenda. When the family went to court to have the agreement set aside, Ohio Health then sued them, claiming their request to clear up the matter was frivolous. The family is now facing a trial on this matter. Joining me today to discuss their ongoing legal battle is Brenda's husband and daughter. Don Downs was the husband of Brenda Downs and father of Melissa Atkins, Kara Bookman, and Joseph Downs. He and Brenda had 4 children and have built a beautiful and loving family together for 42 years. Don is the pastor of a small non-denominational church in Ohio. He has been in ministry for 26 years. He has a heart for young people and ministers in local youth detention centers. After the loss of his wife due to the COVID protocols, he has devoted time in freeing himself of a gag order issued by Ohio Health and exposing corruption in hospitals and courts. Also joining us today is Kara Bookman. She is the middle daughter of Don and Brenda Downs. She is an elementary school teacher of 14 years. She is married to Jacob Bookman and they have 2 children. Kara is active in their church and children's ministry. After the passing of her mother, Kara devoted her time to helping those with COVID-19 access other treatment methods. Don and Kara, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And first, let me just say that I am so sorry for your loss and for all that you have had to endure at the hands of this corrupt system. I've seen this happen firsthand, and it doesn't get any easier to witness. And I want to express my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So I wanted you to just kind of share your story, just the circumstances surrounding Brenda's illness, her hospitalization, and the denial of the ivermectin.
Okay. What we're going to do is we're both going to share, but I want to start out by saying I never dreamed in all my life that we would ever face such a situation in America. It was mind blowing, really. But first of all, our experience was evil versus good, and that's just the way it is. And I want to start off by saying that what we're doing is just not for our loved one, Brenda, my wife of 46 and a half years. We got married when we was in the 12th grade, in fact, both had jobs. But my 2 daughters and my son lost their best friend, not to COVID, but to the damnable protocol that this government put out, Fauci. But I want to say this, our hearts go out to some 1.2 million others who lost family members. They have been shook to the core over these deaths. And our hearts also go out to the many, many doctors and nurses that were terminated or harassed to the brink because they knew that protocol was killing people. So this story is for you and everyone else. Our story tells how far the monster medical field will go to stop ivermectin or any other protocol that would help their loved ones live. So this is, it really, the word for this, our attorney in New York that I was forced to fire in the courtroom that day, he put it in one word: what was done to him and to our family was the unconscionable. So people really need to look that word up. But I just want to say when she went to the hospital, July 28th, was it?
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, we both had COVID. We went into the local hospital. We were in the same room for 3 days. Somehow I got a little better. I got released, but she had to be transported to Ohio Health Doctors West in Columbus, Ohio, about 50 minutes from here. And the same day that my wife went on life support, she was in there a few days, but they dogged her about getting on life support. She didn't even, the day they put it on her, she told us, I don't even feel that bad to be put on it. But they would just dogged her for 2 or 3 days because they said it would help rest her lungs. But of course, we found out soon that was not true.
So can I just stop you one second? I'm sorry. I just want to ask a real quick question here. So when they were asking her to put her on the ventilator, so she was not in distress, right? She was not having that difficult of a time breathing.
No, she was on high flow max.
Yeah.
And
Oh, so they
oxygen.
hadn't even moved to BiPAP at that point. They were just high flow. Okay, that's interesting. All right.
Yes, they did finally move to BiPAP
Okay.
that last day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But she was still talking fine. She was awake. She was alert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
what
what
we
we
had
kept
found out
seeing.
later, they had also had her on fentanyl while she was on the high flow oxygen, and she wasn't in any pain.
Right.
So, and we didn't know that she was on fentanyl, and it just doesn't make any sense why you would put uh,
Exactly.
a patient on oxygen on fentanyl.
Yeah, but it's just because it's in the protocol, and that's the type of thing
Right.
that we were seeing over and over again. Things that weren't necessarily necessary at all. That makes sense if they are on the ventilator or if they're in a significant amount of pain, but they stick to that rigid protocol. I just wanted clarification on that, but I'm so sorry. You can go ahead and continue.
So when they were trying to talk her into the life support, they finally brought us in because she just kept refusing, and they told us if she doesn't go on it today, she will die within 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah.
And they scared us, of course, and they scared her into it, and she finally just got so sick of them harassing her about it that she just gave in. But while she was being intubated, we were in the waiting room, and we got a call from one of our friends, and they said, "Hey, we know this guy that was intubated, and he received ivermectin. The doctor at that hospital gave it to him, and within 48 hours, he was off the ventilator." So at that time, we had never heard of ivermectin. So of course, I was like, well, let's call back and see if they haven't done the procedure yet, and we can, stop it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, they had already done it. But we did our due diligence and looked it up, and we requested a meeting, and we said, hey, and I showed them myself. I had found an NIH study that showed that it lowered comorbidity, that ivermectin lowered comorbidity in COVID. So I showed this to the doctors, and they took it, up to, I think these were actually resident doctors that they sent to meet with us at first. And then, of course, that went, they took our information, but that went up the chain. And then we were immediately met with administration, hospital administration, and they said, absolutely not. Ivermectin is for horses. You can't even get that in any pharmacy
In Ohio.
in Ohio.
They lied to us. We already knew we could.
Exactly.
You
That's
can
a
only-
complete lie. They demonized this medication. Safely
Absolutely
in
did.
humans for decades.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said you can only get it at the local Tractor Supply, and they tried to make us look stupid
Oh yeah.
for even asking.
Yeah.
So as we did more research, we found Ralph Larego out of New York, and we did bring up the fact that Ohio has the right to
Right.
try,
Yeah.
and they said no because it's not in a clinical trial at that time. And and it had went up the chain through the hospital. There was multiple meetings, and it was just no. We offered to sign any agreement of where we wouldn't sue them if it hurt her, and they said no.
We jumped up and down that day. And get this, what we're going to tell you all happened the day they put her on the respirator. In one day, all we're going to tell you happened. So we get a hold of Ralph Larego.
We found him out of New York. He was trying a lot of these cases to force the hospitals to administer the ivermectin. And when we did try to find the doctor at the hospital where they actually administered it was in Ohio, but when we tried to find that doctor, he was no longer on their staff, and no one seemed to know what happened to him.
Fired, probably.
Yeah, they got rid of him quickly.
Really quick.
After he saved a life.
Yes.
But Ralph had 11 cases before our case. Our case was his 12th. He took the case, and
all of the 11 had lived after they had received ivermectin.
Yeah.
And they were all on a ventilator.
Right.
And he told us that day when we got a hold of him, he said, I need you to do 3 things. You need to find a Columbus, Ohio attorney that's not affiliated with Ohio Health that will take the case
to do the
legwork. You need to find a doctor that's willing to prescribe the ivermectin, and you need to find a pharmacy that's willing to fill it.
We did that in one day.
Wow. So we got all of that done in one day. And the next day we filed the emergency injunctive relief, and they had been arguing they'd been battling in the courtroom via Ralph Larego, our New York attorney, via phone, and then Ohio Health, and they had been battling back and forth. And then Ralph finally calls us and he says, everything has been going great. The judge doesn't understand why they won't just give her the medicine, why they won't try it. It seems to be going in our favor. Well, then the next day, the judge seemed to have changed his tune.
Yes.
He was no longer in our favor, on our side. And so Ralph calls us again after they had been back and forth all day, and he says they have reached an agreement, but they want you to sign this confidentiality agreement that if you were to talk about it, you have to pay $1 million. And not only did they want that from my dad, my sister, and myself, they also wanted that from Ralph. They wanted Ralph to be part of this confidentiality agreement. And he said, in his career, they have never tried to put an attorney under the same gag order. So the judge calls us and he says,
this is like 4:30 in the afternoon where they've been in court all day.
And he says, do you know what confidentiality is? And we're like, obviously. Right. And he says, and this was Judge Mark Serra out of Franklin County. And he says, well, Ohio Health wants $1 million each, but I think that that's a little high. So I'm going to change it to 100,000 each. So, he says to us, so what you're going to do if anybody talks about this and asks you about this, you're going to say, the judge told me I'm not allowed to talk about it. And he made us repeat after him like we were children. And he said, I want you to repeat this after me. When somebody asks you about it, you say, the judge told me I'm not allowed to talk about it. And then he made us all 3 repeat it back to him.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
And so he said, I want you to come to the courthouse. We hadn't been present at all during any of the back and forth. He said, I want you to come to the courthouse and we're going to draft this confidentiality agreement and you're going to sign it and she can get the medicine. Well, we get there and we get in the room and the judge, they'd still been arguing back and forth all day. Ralph was not happy with the agreement because it was extortion.
It was one-sided.
It was very one-sided. And, we were just trying to save her life. And, so the judge says, I don't even know why I took this case. your attorney is, I mean, he just had all kinds of negative.
Okay, I wrote down what he said, okay, because the people ought to know this too before we forget it. What happened in that court that day? We didn't find out till a long time later, after we hired an attorney, much later, that this judge allowed no recordings whatsoever to go on when we were in there. So we have no evidence of even being in court. So our attorney sent his investigator he said, look, I want all that was recorded. No way. Judge says, no, nothing was recorded. So I've never heard of that in my life, but that's just the way
so there was no court reporter or anything, no transcriber.
Nothing.
No, nothing. No. And when we told
his staff attorney was in there, and they had 4 lawyers, and our local lawyer we had to hire, and then of course Ralph was on the phone out in New York. But this is the way it was. We walk in, and Judge Mark Serrett starts talking about how busy he was and how he was the only judge in this area that would even look at a case like this. It was really, he was horrible. Yeah. He was upset with our lead attorney, Ralph Laredo from New York, because he said that every time they got close to an agreement, Ralph wanted to change things. And the judge, was tired of dealing with him. And he said that Ralph was the reason that this case won't go forward. He cited his opinions about Ralph, saying that Ralph was only helping us because of his ego, trying to make a name for himself. So he runs our lead attorney down so quick, it blew our mind. So only thing I knew to do.
Well, and he also said, he looked straight at us and said, if your wife does not get the medicine and she dies, it is your attorney Ralph's fault.
Absolutely.
Put the whole blame on Ralph. And while we're sitting in this courtroom, he's not even allowing Ralph to be part of the conversation whatsoever. No. They don't have him on a Zoom call. They don't have him on the phone. Nothing.
He's our lead attorney.
He's our lead attorney. The only attorney we have. Yeah, so we had Jeff Perry, which is the local attorney that we had hired, but we really, we
didn't do the legwork.
Yeah, he was only the person that was filing whatever Ralph told him to file. He wasn't our lead attorney. He was just there because we had to have somebody from Ohio because Ralph doesn't have a license in Ohio.
So this was so bad about Ralph that, we have a brain. So we're sitting there listening to him say all this. And I said, okay, I fire Ralph right now.
Well, before you did that, Melissa raised her hand.
Yeah, okay.
My sister, Melissa, she raised her hand and she said, well, can we talk to Ralph? Like, here he is not even present. They're not even allowing him to be present. And the judge looks at her and, we're in tears, me and my sister. Yeah. The judge's staff attorney's in tears. Even Ohio Health's attorneys were in tears. And he says, you have 3 minutes. You can go out of the courtroom and call him. You have 3 minutes. Wow.
So we do that.
So we go and we call Ralph. And, he's trying to, he only has 3 minutes, but he's trying to tell us how awful this agreement is and how they're making all these changes that are very, one-sided. But, we get the medicine or we don't. And that's all we cared about was we get the medicine or we don't. And we just said, please sign it. And he said, I can't sign this. He said, I can't. And
I had to tell him we had to fire him.
We had to tell him that we had to fire him.
He understood.
And we go back in the courtroom, and the judge had already been talking with Ohio Health attorneys while we weren't in the room, and no attorneys for us were in the room.
Nope.
At all. And he's making an agreement with Ohio Health. And
hey, before I got to sit down, he said, Mr. Downs, we've come to an agreement. Ohio Health attorneys have agreed that I will put a gag order on your attorney in New York. That way he can't Well, he's out of the picture. So
Yeah, as long as they're a gag order on Ralph, they'll allow the agreement to go through. And he
Right.
said, and your wife will get
tomorrow,
the
she'll
ivermectin
get it
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
He said, we will draft a new agreement and tomorrow you will go and you will sign it and she will get the medicine.
Right.
So the next day we drive up to our Columbus attorney's office, and he has everything laid out at the front counter, not in his office at all. And he has it just set out to where we need to sign. And my dad asks him, has there been any changes
Since yesterday evening? And he said, oh, yeah, a couple things, but don't worry about it. It doesn't really mean anything. So just sign it and get the medicine over there so she can get it. So, that's what we did.
And the changes were basically that if the doctors at Ohio Health felt like it would be dangerous for her to take the medicine, that they wouldn't have to give it to her.
Right.
Wow.
He took all the pressure off the judge too, see?
Yes, exactly.
After he made the statement, well, she's going to get it tomorrow. Well, they changed the contract after we left.
And they also changed the contract to add, not only would we be liable, but our next of kin would also be liable.
Oh my
kids,
God.
grandkids.
You cannot be serious.
You've never heard anything like this in your
Never.
life. It's unconscionable. It's so we go to we sign it. We go over to the hospital and we go to her room and her doors are wide open. First time. Oh, you don't have to wear the garb anymore because she doesn't have COVID. Oh my.
We're like, we knew as soon as we walked in that room and the doors were open and they hadn't been open.
Right.
We knew something was up. We knew that they were up to no good.
So we wait an hour, wait 2 hours, we wait 3 hours, nothing.
We keep calling and saying, we want to let us know when the doctors are there. We want to watch them give her the ivermectin because we don't trust that they're going to do it without us being there.
So finally, our attorney from Columbus there, Jeff, he calls and says, ask a question. Is she off the vent? We said, absolutely not. She got a high fever and all that. No, she's not. Well, he said someone from Ohio Health emailed, called, whatever, to the judge's staff attorney while we were waiting and said that Brenda was doing significantly better.
And no longer needed
the ivermectin. So what did the judge do? We were livid. So what did he do? He shelved the whole thing until we could get counsel together, which never, ever happened.
But while we were waiting, the attorney also said, the Columbus attorney, Jeff Perry, he also said, the doctors want to have a meeting with you. Do you want to meet with them? And if you do you want me to be present? And we said, no, we don't want a meeting. And then they're saying, oh, well, she might be having cognitive issues. So we're like, then my sister was messaging the attorney back, and she said, well, I guess we need to know what these cognitive issues are. And then I'm like, as we discussed it, we're like, no, they're pulling this. They're doing this dirty.
They took her to another floor and gave her a CT scan.
So she messaged him back and said, no, we do not want a meeting. Just give her the medicine now. She needs it now. No meeting. And they come, 5 of their doctors come barging in the waiting room and ambushed us. And it was their head infectious disease doctor,
Gastaldo.
Dr. Joseph Gastaldo. It was their pulmonologist, Dr. Chowdhury, their lead pharmacist, and I can't remember the 2 others offhand. But
ambushed us though.
Yeah, and they told us that she no longer had COVID, that she they felt like she was having cognitive issues because she wasn't waking up and she should be awake. So ivermectin can cause more issues cognitively, And so it would be completely unsafe for her to have it right now.
Couldn't wake up because they was giving her fentanyl.
Yeah, they were giving her high doses of fentanyl and other sedation medicines. And I said that, and they were like, well, no, she should still be awake. I'm like, not when she's on that much sedation. And she is a small woman. She's only 5 foot. She takes child doses of any medicine she takes. And so, but they, they didn't want to hear any of that. And
Yeah,
then
this is what they do, and they over sedate the patients,
Yes,
and then
they did.
they claim that they can't pass breathing trials to come off a ventilator. But it's because they're on so much sedation that they can't follow commands. And this
She
is the
came
type of thing
through
we see
for a
over and
couple,
over.
3 days and followed commands.
Yeah.
But
then they sedated her again. Every
Yeah.
time she would wake up, they would
Yeah.
sedate her again, and then they would act like they had no idea what happened.
Exactly.
It
Yeah,
was the most
There was 30.
disgusting.
This is just, I'll throw this in. She had 3,300 pages of medical records for what, 28-day stay or whatever it was.
Mhm.
They wouldn't give them to me. I requested them. No. So I had to get our local attorney in Logan, where we live, to get a form from them and have our Hocking County judge, to sign this paper to get those medical
Right.
records released. I've never heard of anything like that in my life. So
Yeah,
our attorney
typically, if
hands
they
them
know
over
you're going to
to
do something like that, they won't give them. They make it very difficult. So I always advise my clients.
I had to go to court.
Yeah, exactly. I just advise my clients to request the records. Just like, don't even mention anything. Just go down to medical records and request it as you normally would, like just for your records, because then you have a chance. Because if they even think that you're hinting at litigation of any kind, they won't. They're going to make you go through all of the process of subpoenaing doing the subpoena for the records. But we've got a ton to dig into. I'm up against a break, but we're going to be back here and dig into the heart of this story. America Out Loud Talk Radio plays on the iHeartRadio network. You can also listen on our media player from any web browser anywhere in the world. We have the best in-class apps available on Apple, Android, or Alexa 24/7. Great talk radio. All of our shows go to podcast the following day. You can hear them on apps such as Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeart Podcast, and many more. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts for me. Don't forget to check out all of our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate, including ASEA Redox, which I can personally speak to seeing fantastic results with, including better sleep, increased energy, improved mood, and a decrease in my joint pain. Use promo code OUTLOUD to save 15% off your purchase. We'll catch you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
It's time and this is war.
The pandemic may be over for some, but millions of Americans are needlessly suffering from the long-term effects of toxic spike protein from COVID-19 and the vaccines. Fortunately, Dr. Peter McCullough and his team at the Wellness Company designed their spike support formula with the miracle enzyme nattokinase, scientifically studied to dissolve spike protein so you can feel your very best. Go to OutLoudCare.com today and use code OUTLOUD for 25% off your first order.
ASEA believes that inside each of us is the potential to feel our very best. Our customers will tell you how our products have made a difference for them, from improving immune health and supporting gut health to reducing the appearance of wrinkles and even improving mind, mood, and energy. Make our breakthrough products an essential step in fulfilling your greatest potential. ASEA, we power potential. For exclusive savings, use code OUTLOUD to save 15% off your first order today.
You've all heard Dr. McCullough and others share over and over the value of keeping your sinuses cleansed. It's a smart move all year, but even more so when we're cooped up inside. It's not really open for debate any longer. Those that live smart and live well pay attention to nasal and oral hygiene. Cofix RX has just the tools for the job with our nasal and throat cleanse. Click the Cofix RX banner on AmericaOutloud.shop to get 20% off your entire order. That's right, AmericaOutloud.shop. Use coupon code OUTLOUD. That's coupon code OUTLOUD for 20% off your entire order.
Use Cofix RX because it works.
Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death and disability. Today's high-stress, on-the-go lifestyle makes it hard to stay heart healthy. Lifestyle changes like exercise and diet are critical, but you can also support your heart with concentrated nutrients. Healthy Cell created Heart and Vascular Health to support 3 aspects of heart health: cholesterol, blood pressure, and triglycerides, with CoQ10, vitamin K2, resveratrol, and soluble fiber. And Healthy Cell's not a pill. It's a patent-pending gel you swallow with ultra-absorption of science-backed ingredients. You would need to take 13 pills to get the same amount of nutrients in each gel pack. And these great-tasting gels come in a small packet. Tear off the top, shoot it down, or mix it in water. Get heart healthy. Go to healthycell.com and use code OUTLOUD for 25% off your first order. Healthycell.com, code OUTLOUD for 25% off.
Many voices, one freedom, united in the First Amendment. Our goal is to herald the voice of genuine liberty at AmericaOutloud.news, a place where you'll find the naked truth expressed with a patriotic heart. Now is our time, my fellow Americans. America Out Loud Talk Radio. Liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Wherever you're listening from today and whatever you're doing, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Be sure to make AmericaOutloud.news your daily stop for all the latest news and happenings. We all must do our part and share the stories, the articles, the podcasts, and videos so we can help secure America's future. If you're just joining us, I've been talking with Brenda Downs and Kara Bookman. This is the husband and daughter of Brenda Downs, who was a victim of deadly hospital protocols and the denial of life-saving medications. Let's jump right back in with their story.
So the doctors had come ambushed us in the waiting room, and she did have a high fever. So we had agreed and they were running a lot of neurological tests that were a complete sham. And of course, she passed all of them.
Or a local doctor also.
Yes, they also called our local doctor that had agreed to prescribe the ivermectin and wrote a letter on why she should receive it. And they told him that no one at that hospital was willing to administer the ivermectin, and that he did not have rights to practice in that hospital, so he could not come to the hospital. And
he offered to that minute. I will come up and give it to her. And they said, no, you're not associated with us, so you will not come on his property. And it was Gastaldo.
Yeah, that made that phone call.
Right. And they did it behind our back. They did the CT scan. We didn't know about it till later. And also the phone call to our local doctor.
Yeah. And we did agree to wait one day on the ivermectin, just because of the high fever and just because we were getting very scared about what they would do to her.
Right.
Because they were putting her through all these tests, and it was just like they were definitely overreaching, doing whatever they could to not give her the medicine. Right. So we started fearing that they might intentionally hurt her.
Yes.
Or us, to not give her the medicine. And they had already agreed to someone from the hospital had already agreed to give it to her, but they wouldn't tell us who that person was.
No.
But then he calls and says no one was willing after we signed the documents. But after we had agreed to wait, all of a sudden our local attorney won't answer our phone calls. And we find out later that our local attorney had told the judge's staff attorney that we no longer wanted the ivermectin.
Unbelievable.
We never told him that. We only told him that we were willing to wait a day. So that's why he wasn't answering our phone calls. He told us that the judge's staff attorney was on vacation and just would not do anything with us.
Yeah, and I believe it was 4 days went by and he would not respond to us after being on. We was communicating with him by the hour before all this message comes from the hospital that she's doing significantly better. But I have to say this, one of the most important parts of this story, I will never rest until I find out who at Ohio Health, the day she was to get the ivermectin, relayed a message to the judge's staff attorney, Paige Kahn. They told the judge staff attorney that Brenda was doing significantly better. That's the biggest lie. This one incident cost her her life. That's just one incident. But so he shelved it. And until we could get counsel together, he says, never happened. She lived days.
But he was also told a lie by our local attorney that we didn't want the medicine, and it wasn't true.
Yeah, I knew he sold us out that day. And then he really, so I believe he was, only God knows, and he knows and the judge knows, but I believe he was threatened or paid off, one of the two. He had to have been.
Oh, absolutely.
So nothing like this happens. Now he's going to, well, we'll get into that too.
So after she died on September 2nd of 2021. We, in an effort to clear ourselves from this confidentiality agreement, because we do not want to be held liable for that much money, and our next of kin, we asked Jeff Perry, the local attorney, to file a dismissal of the case, and he said that he would, and we said, now does this get us out from under the confidentiality? And he said, I'll have to speak with the judge, but I'm sure it will. Well, then after it all goes through, we ask him again, are we not bound to this confidentiality now? And he says, no, you're still bound. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it because I'm in part of the confidentiality too, which I'm pretty sure that was a lie looking at the contract. Now he's not in it.
Right. He lied.
But he said, I wouldn't lose any sleep if you talked about it. But, if you want me to represent you to get you out from under the contract, I can do that.
After the judge, I paid this guy $1,650 to send a letter to the judge to get it dismissed. And then it gets dismissed. And then we ask him, are we still bound to the gag order? Yes. And if you want representation, I'd be glad to do that for you. Are you kidding me?
So we then hired, and we spoke to some other attorneys, and they also all felt that we were still under the confidentiality agreement by looking at it. So we hired Warner Mendenhall out of Akron, Ohio, and he's been dealing with a lot of these cases against these mandates. And so he agreed to take our case. He also felt that we were bound, and we filed a lawsuit requesting to be released from the confidentiality agreement. And Ohio Health has now countersued us for filing a frivolous lawsuit, saying that we should have known that we were not bound to it. Although our attorney now believes that if we had spoken without going to court, that they would have immediately sued us, which we know that they would have. But they're saying that we should have known that because we declined wanting the ivermectin, we dismissed the case. We should have known that we were not under it. And now they want us to pay their attorney fees after, my mom was murdered at their hands, and they're a multi-million-dollar hospital organization. They want us to pay all of their attorney fees.
So they're suing the three of us plus our attorney.
And they also want sanctions against Warner Mendenhall for filing this lawsuit on our behalf.
So what they're seeking from you now is not the not due to the breach of the confidentiality agreement, but for for just attorney fees for what they consider a frivolous lawsuit.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just to add insult to injury. 'Cause, I mean, I'm not an
They
attorney,
even-
but that doesn't sound like it made
Oh.
sense to
Right.
me.
So this second judge is handling this case. He looked at it and he ruled just not too long ago, he ruled that we were not under the gag order.
Right.
But there was no way we knew that. So I've spent $21,000
Oh my gosh.
after we was told by our local attorney and other attorneys and our attorney now that yes, we were. So, but I wasn't. So I've wasted $21,000 according to this judge, basically. But he goes
according to Ohio Health.
Ohio Health, yeah. And so he goes back in law to 2005, where there's like 3 cases where it shows that yeah, we're probably wrong, but we didn't know it. I mean, this is criminal what they've done.
Yeah.
So in his eyes, the second judge, and we're not speaking bad about him at all, he's just going by the law. But we have since refiled, and we're asking this same judge to look, such and such law says this, this, and this. So he wants us to work this out. But I can tell you right now, they want us to shut up.
They are not willing to work it out at all. Every time we have been just asking for the judge to dismiss the case,
Right.
and Ohio Health comes back harder.
Yeah.
It wants more.
Yeah.
They just want us to be quiet, and they want us to pay their attorney fees.
Okay. And the case was supposed to be held in Columbus against us.
Jury trial, but a trial with the judge.
Yeah. October 23rd. He cancels it and puts it out till April. So here we are in April facing this frivolous lawsuit deal. And I want the people to look up the word frivolous. They told this second judge that we were under no duress through all this. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
It is
zero duress.
zero.
They even specified in the courtroom that we weren't under duress in the courtroom.
Oh, they were bawling. And
I mean, of course you were. I mean, of course you were. How is that even a question when your loved one's life is literally hanging in the balance? I'm certain you would have said or done anything to save your family member.
Right.
Well, Epoch Times, they did a long interview with us and they put out a great report. But his last question to me was, what is your last comment on this? I said, let me tell you something. And I want everybody to hear this. If I and my daughters and my wife hadn't went through this, I would have a hard time myself believing that this really happened. It is that outrageous and unconscionable. To look at it all, to go through it. I was the first one when we had a meeting, when I was jumping up and down for them to give her the ivermectin. I asked their top brass, hey, how many people have sued this monster organization to get their loved one ivermectin or any other thing that might help when they're told that they're on life support and they don't have any chance? How many people have sued you? In 19 months at that point, I was the first one, and they admitted it. And they laughed basically in my face, like I wasn't going to do it. Well, they found out the next day this thing was real. But had I not went through it, I would have a hard time believing it still, that something like this could happen in America.
And
it's so evil.
Even though what I went through with Ohio Health, I still, in my heart thought that when we filed this lawsuit, they would say, yes, just you're free from it. Yes, you can, it's just let it go. And no, they won't. They want to fight back against us. And
they're going to make an example out of you.
That's exactly. And well, just slipped my mind what I wanted to say. But in all of this, we're Christian people. We still pray for these people.
Amen.
because they have a soul, but they still need held accountable for what they've done, not just to Brenda, but to other family members and 1.2 million. This protocol actually killed over 1 million people in this country.
It absolutely
And
has.
if your audience is when they listen to this, I would just ask them to look at what happened in India at the same time. They have 1.2, 1.3 billion people. They have over 4 times our population, and they only lost 650,000 people. Why? Their government gave them all ivermectin when they found out that's what would help. In the United States, we lost 1.2 million out of 400. So there's proof right there.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I was just featured in a book called What the Nurses Saw. And this was myself and other nurses that have been speaking out about what they witnessed in the hospitals. And they determined that of that number of the 1.2 million, it's close to 1 million of those people died in the hospital. And I know you're not very familiar with my organization or the work that I've done, but I say this all the time that, if patients were dying of the virus itself, then why were we not pulling bodies from homes or off of the streets? Nobody was dying anywhere except for in our hospitals. So that to me is proof right there that it is not COVID that is killing these people. It is the absolute total medical mismanagement of COVID and deadly hospital protocols that are killing millions of people. And they continue today.
Yes, I know that. Yeah. But, we're being sued right now from Ohio Health for us calling what they call a frivolous lawsuit. And so frivolous, I want to tell the people, it means this: not having any serious purpose or value. Are you kidding me? So what they're saying is our case to this judge and my wife, these kids' mother, had no serious purpose or value. It means foolish, idiotic, impractical, petty, pointless, senseless, and childish. This is what they're saying about us. The official frivolous lawsuit meaning, according to the U.S. legal system, is a legal claim that is filed by any entity or individual who is well aware that the lawsuit has no facts or basis to support it. Frivolous lawsuits may also be filed to delay other legal proceedings. Now, versus what our family went through at their hands, Ohio Health and the first judge, to us, this was unconscionable, which means not right or reasonable. An objective that means without conscience, unscrupulous, so unfair or unjust that it shocks the conscience. That's exactly what's happened in this case. So, we just, that's why we're telling our story. And, we have had phone calls from the public, and it's easing their mind. They've lost family members, and they're behind us. And, but, you can go with this here if you want.
So we have some social media sites that you can follow us on X, Getter, Facebook, Telegram, and Truth Social. We're at Brenda's Battle. And we have a Give, Send, Go to help us with our legal fees against Ohio Health. And it's givesendgo.com, and it's /Brenda's Battle 21. So the social media is just at Brenda's Battle, and then the Give, Send, Go is Brenda's Battle 21.
Excellent. We'll include links to all of your social media as well as to the Give, Send, Go in our show notes that will accompany this episode once it goes to podcast. I think that your story really brings to light the corruption, the level of corruption that exists in courts, in the hospital systems. I mean, they're kind of all in bed together, if you ask me. But
I'm sure they are.
The court systems, and it's in every state, it's at every level. And this story really, really highlights that. So I thank you for sharing with us, with my listeners, and whatever we can do to help get that story out there, we will absolutely do it. And I think this again just underscores the need to have an advocate. Now, did you have any type of advocacy at all? Any nurses or doctors or any advocacy organizations that external network to offer you assistance or any guidance during this time, or was it just yourself and the attorneys?
No.
Yeah,
This has pretty much wore us out, and I quit twice. I said, no, I can't go anymore. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
But I don't say that anymore. We're going all the way.
Absolutely.
We're not going to shut up because it's right.
Yes.
It's time for people to stand up for good and not evil. It needs exposed. And if I lose everything I've got, so be it. I don't, everything I own belongs to the Lord anyhow. But I've got over $50,000 in this. And most of it's lawyer fees, and it just keeps mounting. But I'm not rich by any means, but the Lord has provided. So we'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
From now till April, and the other shows that we've been on are, I think I told you, was the 17th. One, either 14 or 15 wants us back on to keep them updated on our case. So
yeah, absolutely. We will have you back on as well. We would love to have you back on. Please keep us posted, and we will be following this very, very closely. And like I said, any way that we can help, please feel free to reach out. And, we're here for you guys. I thank you for being here. Absolutely. I thank you for being here. And we will be following, like I said, we'll be following this case.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. That's all the time that we have for today, friends. But remember, we are here on the air 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also catch the encore at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and my amazing sister nurses. As we walk you through all of these hot topics, we will empower you with information and education. We will advocate and we will stand in the gap for you because we are nurses and this is what we do. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton, and you can find me here every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless. Remember that we are in a war for truth. We are putting out a bounty on the real misinformation and exposing the purveyors of propaganda. No topic is off limits as we shine our lights and expose the darkness.
It's time and